You're listening to the Geekscape Network.
Time to fire up the VCR. This one's my favorite. That was gold.
Welcome to Analog Jones in the Temple of Film. I'm Steve.
And I'm John.
Hey, John. Welcome back. And we get another comic book movie. And this comic book movie is the most epic thing ever made.
Yeah.
10 years.
Yes.
10 years, the trajectory to get this thing going. Pretty incredible. We watched Avengers Endgame.
We lost. All of us. We lost friends. We lost family. Today we have a chance to take it all back. We will. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes.
Woo! Well, that was an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah, I'm impressed with a lot of this movie. I had some nitpicks, pacing, and some really weird kind of like writing decisions, but I think that kind of happens with time travel movies.
There's obviously spoilers, so if you're watching this or listening to this, I mean, you know, what are you doing?
No offense, Jonesers, but get the fuck out if you haven't seen Avengers Endgame.
Right. It's funny because, you know, they travel back in time and they reference how time travel is not like, and they list a ton of different time travel movies and TV shows, but in a way it's a lot like Back to the Future too, with like what they do. They're like, don't do this, don't do this, and then they interact with their past selves. The bad guy ends up fading away at the end, like Biff does, you know, and yeah, there's just kind of funny similarities.
Yeah, Scott Lang / Ant-Man, when he's just like, wait a minute, you're telling me Back to the Future 2 is full of shit?
Quantum Leap, Die Hard. Oh wait, Die Hard's not part of
it. Yeah, they left a lot of ad-lib stuff in here. You could tell they were funny. Tonally, this movie was kind of a mixed bag at points. I think you get away with it because it's it was lighthearted at moments and doom and gloom at others and very depressing, and then that's why I say emotionally it's all over.
Yeah, a lot of pathos, and then kind of like the last Harry Potter movie, or like in my opinion, it reminded me of the last Harry Potter movie or Harry Potter book because it has a different kind of feel to it than the rest of the movies. So it's like you had mentioned pacing. For it being an over 3 hour movie, it did not seem like that to me. Like a movie went by fast, and I was like, oh, wow, 3 hours has gone by. But it is slow at the beginning because, yeah, you're facing with, you know, a planet or a universe where half the people are gone, and so you really get the feeling of what that's like. Mm-hmm. The beginning of it, and there's a lot of adjusting like from everybody. And
I thought it was kind of amazing within the first 10 to 15 minutes that they kill Thanos. Yeah,
they go and kick his ass right away, and I was not expecting that at all. So that was a pleasant like, oh cool, all right. And then like a holy shit moment. He just cut Thanos' head off. What do we do now? Like, you know, it had that different pacing and a different way of going about it. Right when Thanos gets his head cut off, you're like, whoa, so all your like fanboy theories were wrong. And they're like, well, where do we go from here? So it was kind of a welcome change of pace.
I thought it took a lot of courage to do that. Mm-hmm. I love it when Thor's just like, I went for the head. They cut off his arm and then his head. Mm-hmm. I was like, damn. Yeah. Thanos was just, you know, tending his garden, making his soup.
He was just wanting some space grapes, man.
Yeah, he destroyed half the universe. It was time to hang up the helmet and retire.
Yeah. which is
Nerd is garbage.
straight from the comic. Like he had like a Scarecrow version of himself in the comic, which I have not read, but I've seen panels and watched like recaps and stuff online. Because
And then I was wondering, I was like, wow, where do you go from here? And then it's like 5 years later.
I wasn't expecting that.
Hey. Yeah,
which is interesting because then technically half of the universe is 5 years older than the other half when it inevitably comes back later.
Yeah.
Because for everyone who faded away, it's for them. It's like they just woke up from a nap. They're the same age or whatever. No time really hasn't gone by for them in the same way.
Yeah, I mean, character by character, you had Tony Stark, who was floating out in space, starving to death, and the CG on his body was really good. To make him skinny and weak.
Like it was enough to where I was wondering, like, did he film this last and starve himself throughout the whole film? I had a time figuring that out. They did a good job with that. He looked, definitely sickly, and he kind of reverted to his old self in a way where he was looking out for all of his interest, and it was all about him. Like, so there was this kind of fade back. His reaction to that happening was that he kind of, reverted a little bit to where he was like in the first Iron Man, personality wise.
Yeah, I mean his story. His actually once Captain Marvel saves him, goes out in space, brings him back, lands. It was interesting because he ends up having a kid, and his life's not bad at all.
What's cool is, so my nephew hasn't watched any Marvel movies, so he's obviously been interested now. So we started going back and watching them all, and there were things that we were watching the old ones that I picked up that were in this, and there's tons of callback.
Yeah.
Even certain lines and everything. And so there's a line he says, and Tony is talking to Steve Rogers at the very end of Age of Ultron. And he goes, maybe, Hawkeye, Clint, maybe he's got it right, and I should just, buy a house out in the middle of the woods and retire, have a family. And that's totally what he does. He gets a house out in the middle of the woods and raises a family with Pepper Potts. And his daughter is freaking adorable, and their relationship is awesome. Which is really cool to see. That's this whole other side of him. You're like, yeah, Tony is an awesome dad.
Yeah, he probably would be. And he's just so charming, witty, quick, everything about it. So it was interesting to see Tony Stark just become a family man. And
you can tell, and what's neat too is, and it could be just because, half the world is or half the population has disappeared, but he lives a much simpler life. His house it's not all futuristic and high tech. It's like very much looks like a log cabin style house right by a lake. Yes, he's got like a magic, super technological table. But other than that, it's not like his sleek and futuristic, ultra rich, houses we've seen in the past. So you can really tell he is different now.
His arc is incredible in this entire series. Tony Stark's just gone from the very beginning where he is just a rich kid, a rich, smart kid. Well, I guess he's not a kid at that point. He's somewhere in his 30s or 40s. I don't know. Yeah. And, he's selling weapons to anyone that will buy them. And he's a douchebag.
Yeah.
I did notice the callback of the cheeseburgers in this from the very first Iron Man. That was a good one. But we'll move on to maybe the second best character in this, arc-wise, or at least how he ends, is Captain America, Steve Rogers.
Yeah.
Who is, after the 5-year gap, is helping people deal with loss and moving on.
Yeah. He's like a counselor. And it's almost like he's got like a group, and there's a circle of people talking about, their experiences, and it's different, which is cool because it has one of the Russo brothers. I don't know which one, but he's one of the guys.
Now, I didn't know that. I didn't know that until I read that was one of them. I was like, oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what they look like. I don't. what they've done here with this Marvel universe is incredible, but I don't know their faces at all.
I only recognize them because I saw them in like a thing promoting it like right before, like within that week, and so I was like, I think that's one of the guys. I was like 90% sure it was one of them, but I wasn't 100. And then afterwards, I was like, yep, totally, okay.
Yep. All right. So
but
incredible
because he's still helping people, but there's essentially. It's like the world isn't. It's so different with half of everybody's gone. There's no like bad guys, and there's like so his job as Captain America is almost like null and void, and so his way of helping people is through this counseling that he does.
Falcon, isn't that what he was doing in one of the Captain America?
Yeah, so he's kind of You're right. When they met in Winter Soldier.
Yeah, Sam Wilson, I think is his name. Something like that. He's got a very generic name.
yeah.
I guess Steve Rogers is kind of generic too, but we're just so used to hearing it. Oh, it was incredible. We had America's ass joke, which slayed.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
We had Cap versus Cap, which was one of the most exciting middle parts for me. And then we'll talk about what happens at the end. We'll move on because I mean, there's a lot to talk about with Captain America at the end. A lot happens in the last 30 minutes.
Do we want to mention the battle with him, or is that later?
Yeah, I'd say mention later. You're talking about him and Thanos.
Yeah.
Going one-on-one. That was nuts. Mark Ruffalo. In my opinion, they kind of neuter him. I get why. I get it.
Yeah.
They mix Bruce Banner and the Hulk and make Professor Hulk, which is straight up from the comics. It was. I tell you what, their ability to motion capture these people and combine the CG with a realistic person is realistic as they can get with a 7-foot green monster.
Yeah, it looks like Mark Ruffalo, but if there's a side by side, they're obviously different. Like they're the size of the nose, but it's like his nose just like warped. It's like they took his face and like warped the bones and everything so that it fit the Hulk, size. But it's it doesn't look like him, but you can clearly tell it's Mark Ruffalo at the same time. It's like they've done that really well. I agree.
He's wearing like cardigans and sweaters. He's
got the salt and pepper. He's got his hipster glasses on.
It was making me laugh.
He's like hip too. He's like dab, and he like holds the dab to the kids.
We never got a Hulk moment. I was a little depressed that we never got a Hulk revenge on Thanos, but he did do the selfless thing by absorbing all the energy from the Infinity Gauntlet later on. Oh, okay. I get it. I get why they did it. I guess they wanted to shine a light more on probably Steve Rogers and Tony Stark at the end. But we'll get to that later on.
Well, that and they kept saying even from the first Avengers that the Tesseract is mostly gamma energy.
Yeah.
And everything is it's mostly gamma and radiation, and that's where his whole I just feel like I was made for this.
Yep.
So he was made to do this.
Didn't he say I was literally made to do this?
I think that is what he says.
Moving on to maybe the funniest character in this movie, Chris Hemsworth as Thor, a.k.a. Fat Thor.
A.k.a. the Big Lebowski.
Yes, the dude walking around. A very depressed Thor after the 5 years. But really, he's lost the most.
Absolutely.
His father, his mother beforehand, his brother dies at the hands of Thanos. Mm-hmm. And then half the universe and half of his next family with the entire superhero team. His entire planet is gone. They moved to Earth and started a new town.
New Asgard or something?
New Asgard, yeah. And they're fishermen, I guess.
Yeah, they're in It's not Norway. It's they're in a real place on Earth, and it's referenced from Ragnarok, where his dad, right before his dad dies, he's like, this could be Asgard, and they're like visiting him on Earth. I can't remember where that is.
Yeah. It's nuts. It's nuts. And we find out that, what's her face? The Valkyrie is pretty much the second leader, second in command. Thor's kind of just like there in title, and she's doing all the.
He's really given up, and he's drinking each day away, and he's being like a college kid who doesn't have class, who was like on spring break and didn't go anywhere. He's just staying home, drinking beer, eating pizza, and playing video games.
And he's playing Fortnite with what is
Cord.
Cord. Yeah, I love it.
Hey mate,
I know those.
The revolution is here.
that entire right there, I could watch a movie about.
Oh yeah, yeah, I agree. There has to be a spinoff with just the three of them, like on adventures.
Stoner comedy.
Yeah, it definitely would be like that.
Yeah. So that was awesome. I loved what they did with Thor, how he became depressed, and he's drinking to forget. And naturally he gets fat because he probably drinks a shit ton and just plays Fortnite all the time. Or at least watches his friends play Fortnite. And then and then he's telling like 13-year-olds what it is. You leave my friends alone.
I will fly down there and I will shove that up your butt.
We had Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, who's running S.H.I.E.L.D. as best she can. Looks like she's doing it by herself and trying desperately not to cry all the time.
Yeah, she's running it out of the Avengers tower, and it's talking to everybody via hologram, where they are, and she finds out. Now we can segue to Hawkeye, Clint, his character from here, but they're just trying to keep an eye out for Thanos and where he is, what he's doing, and eye out for any threats.
She's just trying to keep it all together.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the glue. Opening scene with Hawkeye teaching his daughter to shoot an arrow. She nails the target and turns around and they're all gone. That that really sets the tone of where we're going with this film.
The very first, he's this tender moment. He's teaching his daughter how to shoot. She goes off to get her arrow, and he hears, his wife call, turns around. He can't find her. He doesn't realize what the dust thing looks like, but we see some of it there, and we immediately know, oh shit. And then he turns around to where his two boys and wife were, and there's just this faint trail of dust, and he doesn't realize, but we all are like, oh no. And you hear the distant kind of rumble in the background and everything, and then that's how the movie begins, and you're like, oh fuck.
Fucking heavy.
I'm gonna have emotions.
Emotions? It was incredible. I mean, they really hit you. And it's just like they hug you and then stab you in the heart.
Yeah, there's a lot of good fan service that way. Like a lot of rewarding moments, and then moments where you're like, oh, like you really feel. And it's funny because you're like so attached to these people. And they're just fictional, characters, but you really, especially in this movie, realize like your emotional attachment to them.
Yeah, it's crazy. Let's see, we didn't have much with War Machine. He's just there. That's kind of what War Machine does.
Mm-hmm. Well, we didn't mention, so Clint becomes Ronin, and so he goes on a killing.
Oh, that's true. Yes.
And so he becomes essentially like a samurai badass, and so his mind thought, or his way of thinking now is that like it's not fair that half the people are gone, so he's killing all the bad people because the good people should be here in their place if the bad people, if half the planet's going.
Yeah, and so he wants the opposite of Thor.
Yeah. Yes. Murderous rampage. He's got that awesome haircut. He's got a big giant sleeve tattoo. And he's just going around massacring people. not killing them, like bloody rampage.
I always find it funny in movies when someone's doing this. They're walking around like a ninja, slaughtering people, and then Black Widow just comes up behind him with an umbrella while it's raining, and I'm like, really? Like, I get it. For a movie, it's very dramatic and cool. It's a perfect trailer moment where Hawkeye takes up, he looks behind him. He gives that like, yeah, it's great.
The shoulder look.
If you really think about it, like, how long have you been there? I've been following you for 2 days.
I only brought the umbrella, so I couldn't really stop you from fighting, so I just stood here.
Yes. Scott Lang, Ant-Man, and he plays a pivotal part in all this. We kind of knew this was going to happen at the end of Ant-Man and the Wasp, because he gets stuck in the quantum realm. But he's barely in the quantum realm, but that's 5 years later. Now, what a journey for him.
Yeah.
He's barely in there. I guess a rat.
He's there for like 5 hours. Yeah, and then the mouse. Really, the mouse is the reason why everything happened. If that mouse was not there, none of it would have happened.
The real hero of the movie. Yeah, Paul Rudd. He comes back. It's been 5 years. He has no idea what's going on.
It's only been 5 hours for him, so he has like no clue. But
in our time, it's been 5 years, so he comes back and he sees his grown-up daughter and probably gets all the story, and then he runs back to the Avengers place. He's like, "Hey guys, it's me. Remember we met in Germany?
Ant-Man, I know you know Ant-Man."
I don't even think they write his lines. They're like, "Paul Rudd, go."
Oh yeah, it totally feels like it's like we wrote this stuff for you, but you can just do whatever you want.
Yeah, does it cover? Well, I guess we could talk about Brie Larson's Captain Marvel, which really just feels out of place. I don't think they know what to do with her.
Well, I was funny enough, my dad and I were talking about her earlier today, and how because she's not in the movie very much, but in a way it makes sense to me a little bit for her character, because she is more a person of the universe instead of Earth in a way. Yeah. So she's going around traveling to different planets, because it's happening throughout the whole universe, not just Earth. Yeah. So that's why we don't see her, is because she's off, saving the day around the universe. So at the same time, I was like, she's not in it a whole lot, but in some way too, I'm like, well, I guess that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, she just feels out of place amongst the Avengers. She just feels very awkward. I don't like her character right now. I'm hoping they change something. I don't like the whole eliminate emotion Jedi approach with this. Whatever. She just always seems like she's trying really hard to be the toughest person in the room.
Yeah.
And
it's like she's constantly trying to prove it. She's constantly trying to prove herself to everybody.
Yes. Yeah. Whatever.
That could be like a political undertone that she might be, choosing to do as an actor or as an actress, because her constantly trying to prove herself is showing how women have to constantly prove themselves in the world.
I don't know. Black Widow seems to be the most natural person in the room, and she's a badass.
Yeah. I don't know. If that's the choice, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. I mean, It's a terrible thing that happens in the world, but that as an acting choice, I think it's,
Well, I think Karen Gillan, I think it's Gillian, as Nebula, she's a badass, and she's very vulnerable, and she plays it off much better. I just feel like to be, and this goes for both sexes, to be tough, you don't have to constantly prove that you're tough. It just gets annoying.
Yeah. It's like if you're trying to say you're a man by constantly saying, "I'm a man." You're like, are you?
Are you telling us, or are you telling yourself? Are you trying to convince yourself?
I chop lumber by looking at it.
Gamora has the same approach that I would say Black Widow does. She just knows.
Yeah.
She never has to prove it. And she it's interesting with her too, because she's always tough, but it just seems much more natural.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just find that really odd. And I kind of want Marvel just to come out and say that Captain Marvel is a lesbian.
Well, something I didn't notice until I was being a nerd and watching like all the Easter eggs in Endgame. Yeah. I did not know, but in the comics, her and Rhodey like have a relationship for a while, and they alluded to it a little bit when Black Widow is talking to everybody via hologram and kind of getting, what's happening in the universe type of thing, and Rhodey is in the hologram next to Captain Marvel. And before everybody leaves, they have this look at each other, and she's like, be safe, be careful. And they leave almost like that is like a budding relationship. And I don't know if that was on purpose or not. But I think part of it, too, is, and it could be on purpose, that, there hasn't been a whole lot of interaction with her and the rest of the gang. Everybody else has been around for years, but she's pretty new. And so they don't have that camaraderie. And that could be why it's always kind of like awkward when she's around.
I think they're building up to it to make like the first openly gay superhero. I think she would be the first. I mean, in the Marvel universe.
In the cinematic one, for sure. I want to say they have one in the comics, but I can't remember who it is.
I hope so. So I guess we'll move into the middle, Act 2 of this, which becomes Time Machine Heist of the Infinity Stones, because Tony Stark figures out time travel in 2 minutes.
Well, set it up. Yeah. When Scott Lang comes to the headquarters, everybody's like, wait, we all thought you were dead. And so he explains, well, I've been caught, it's only been 5 hours for me because I was in the quantum realm. And he comes up with the idea that, what if we go into the quantum realm at one time but come out of it at another? Mm-hmm. He's like, there's got to be a way to do something like that. So they go to the person who they think is the smartest, aka Tony Stark.
And he's like, no, I don't want any part of this.
Yeah, he's like, I got my second chance right here while he's holding his daughter. He doesn't want to risk. He has so much now, and he's so happy. He doesn't want to risk losing all that.
His life's great, kind of. I mean, hey, I don't give a shit about this.
Like
I'm not risking my life for all to save the world again from something he really thinks can't be undone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was...
Well, and he gives, he's like, well, first you've got the paradox, blah, 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 and the blah, 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 and you're like, what? So he's like, we could try it, and I know we'd all die. There's not a chance to come back.
Mumbo jumbo. Yeah. I did find, you have to accept it. He figures, the entire team figures this out insanely fast.
Yeah.
But it's a 180-minute movie that is just... This is where the movie pacing for me really kind of slows down. They kind of got cement shoes here. We're moving a little slow. I get why. There's a lot to set up. But once they get time traveling with the pin, what is that stuff called?
The pin particles.
In their suits, they go back in time and they figure out when the stones are together so they can, basically go in teams. They had 2 in New York during the first Avengers film.
3.
Three, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because you had the Tesseract, which has one in it.
The Time Stone, and then the Mind Stone from the Scepter. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had the one in the Scepter, you had the Tesseract, and then you had the Time Stone from Tilda Swinton's character before Doctor Strange becomes Doctor Strange.
Yeah, and I love how she knows the future. That's fantastic. She's like, no, Doc, you want 5 years in the future.
Yeah, he's actually performing surgery about 5 blocks that way.
Yeah.
And that was cool. She did that whole, where she pushed his soul or his aura, I can't remember what, astral projection of himself out of Hulk. So you got Hulk coming down, and then Bruce Banner's, spirit, ghost projection, whatever, pops out of him, and they have a whole conversation that way. That way, the Hulk just doesn't break her in half.
Yeah.
It's kind of neat. And then she she kind of sets up the whole rules to where she's like, hey, if you just take them, you then break all these branches off in reality. So if I let you take this, you're going to ruin my future to fix your future. Mm-hmm. So, no.
Yeah, then he explains how they just put the stone right back in the same spot once they're done.
Where he got it, yeah. So essentially they're going back before Thanos ever gets the stones. They're collecting all the stones before him so they can undo everything.
Yeah, it's incredible, and I do love how he's like, well, if the stone's so important, then why did Doctor Strange just give it to Thanos? And then the Ancient One figures out, yeah, why would he do that unless? And I guess that's what connects to this being the only timeline where they survive Thanos.
Out of 14 million or whatever you looked at. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's like, well, you had to have a good reason. He's the best of us.
Yeah.
Meaning, like, guardians of the mystical realm. So then, cool. Thor. Thor and Hulk, one word. So Hulk gets that one. And then Ant-Man, Iron Man, and Captain America are all in New York to get the ones. And it's during the first Avengers movie, essentially, in 2012. And so they, you see all the moments from then where they're all posing around Loki at the end of the movie, and they're working out how to steal all that stuff from themselves. And that's where it's kind of a lot like Back to the Future 2, or Back to the Future in general. And then what's interesting is Tony and Ant-Man actually mess up, and that was the whole thing. They only had a certain amount of Pym particles, so they could only go back in time once and come back. There was no redos. Everybody just had the one shot. Captain America gets his done. He faces his other self. They have an epic battle. And he gets to see Captain America's ass, which is America's ass. Yeah. Which is definitely a Paul Rudd.
Killed the entire audience.
Definitely a Paul Rudd, yeah. That was hilarious. You have a great ass. That's America's ass.
Yeah, it was great. And we got the Captain versus... we had Cap versus Cap fight. And then they end up, Tony Stark and Ant-Man, they lose the Tesseract to
Loki.
To Loki, who just disappears. So I'm wondering if that will ever come back.
Well,
other than he's in that timeline. But maybe Captain America goes back in the past and fixes it. Who knows?
In one of the other movies, I can't remember which, maybe the second Avenger movie, there was always a question where Loki just had the Tesseract out of nowhere. In one of the movies, he just had it again. And people were never understood why. And I think that was an answering of that question.
Oh, maybe. Oh, okay. All right.
And I just remember that was like a plot hole where nerds were all like, wait a minute, how did he just get it? And I think that was either to fix a mistake in the past of them doing that on accident, or it was on purpose, whatever it was.
I don't know. Either way, it seems to work. We also got a Frank Grillo, I think that's the actor's name, who comes back as Brock. And when they're all in the elevator, and they do trick it, we're going to have another elevator fight.
Just like from Winter Soldier.
Like, Hail Hydra.
Yeah.
So clever. Because he lied. He lied to get out of the situation instead of doing like the ultimate good guy thing. And Captain America has learned maybe sometimes a little lie can work.
And when he sees his other self as Captain, he goes, oh shit. And he's, not big on cussing. So you can definitely, that's kind of neat too, because you see his art throughout the whole thing. Yeah, language. And it also is a little quick nod to one of the comics where Captain America was knowingly working for Hydra. Yes, and he has his, that famous line, Hail Hydra.
And then, right before they fight, the old Cap puts up, he's like, I can do this all day. And new Cap's like, yeah,
I know. Yeah. It's like he's annoyed of like how goody two shoes he used to be.
Yeah. I love it. That's a good one. And then we send Black Widow and Hawkeye to wherever. Mordor. Old Mordor.
Mordor. To Mount Doom.
And this surprised me when they killed off Black Widow.
Right when they got to that planet, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And then as they're getting up there, I'm like, who's it going to be? And then part of me is like, well, it's probably going to be her. She doesn't have a family. He's got the family. And I was like, they're going to fight for it. And they started fighting for it.
Yeah. Well, naturally. I mean, they both want to somehow lose and win at the same time.
Yeah.
It's weird because I didn't want her to die. She was one of the very few characters where I was like, if she dies, I'll be affected a little bit emotionally because I really, really like Black Widow. I think she's a very interesting character. Mm-hmm. She's kind of just the most alone character in this world.
Yeah.
She only has, her chosen family from the Avengers. Yeah.
And the only time she opened up to like a relationship was with the Hulk, and he was like, we can't do that. So she's been like, she's been through some stuff besides all the stuff that she's been through that's not been in the movies that she talks about, all the red in her ledger and stuff. So,
well, apparently she's getting her own movie, so I take it that will be a prequel.
I guess.
I would watch it. I'd like to see how she was, how she came about.
Yeah. And to be honest, that's something I just very vaguely know about.
No.
Oh, she was trained to be a spy since she was a little kid. And they made it so she can't have a kid. That's about it. That's about all I know.
Yeah, for a main character in this entire series, she's never had her own film. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't have a full explanation. I mean, they keep hinting. They keep little bitty tidbits of information about her background. So you kind of have a vague idea of what her life's been like. But yeah, I'd like to really get into it with, maybe a prequel that they're coming out with. She's a very interesting character. I find her arc, I guess, could be fascinating. I mean, she used to kill people for a living, and now she sacrifices herself to save her chosen family and half the freaking universe.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then where did the other ones travel? Oh, yeah, Thor and Rocket. Dude, yeah. The Thor and Rocket team had me rolling.
Yeah, that's a great combo. Yeah. And I think it's almost like you put Thor with anybody and it's almost fun, but Thor and Rocket is extra special, I think.
Chris Hemsworth is such a good comedic actor.
Yeah.
He's so good.
I saw a thing where they were interviewing the girls that he was in with Ghostbusters 2. And they were like, obviously he's super handsome. But then he come in and he's really funny. And we're like, did you bring a writer with you? And it was just all him off the top of his head. So they were talking about how I've never rooted to hate somebody so much because he's really funny, really good looking. And then one of them was like, then he broke out in song once. See, we were trying to talk about a song and none of us could figure out. So he sang it and he sounded like an angel singing it. So they're talking about how they hated him but loved him at the same time.
Yeah, he's one of those people.
Yeah, that son of a bitch.
He's the next Hugh Jackman, or actually, I don't know, probably bigger than Hugh Jackman now.
He might. I mean, they're both from Australia too, so that's very apropos.
Those damn Aussies.
Mm-hmm.
Oi, mate, you're gonna drown!
I like that's your go-to Australian phrase.
It's always gonna be Point Break. Oh, mate, you're gonna drown! That line's not even in the movie.
You need to come out with the Stephen Bay edition, and that's the only thing you do differently. You just overdub yourself saying that at the end of the movie.
It's not even on Australia. It's in Oregon.
Yeah.
Listen to our Point Break review. You'll understand that.
Yeah.
Great. So, yeah, I mean, we end up getting these stones after Captain America and Tony Stark have to break off into is it the 60s or 70s they go back to?
The 70s. So they decide to, hey, we'll use our last Pym particles because I'm pretty confident that they're in a shield station back in the 70s where the Tesseract and more Pym particles are at the same place.
Yeah.
So they can go back to get it and then have a way back as well. So
yeah, and
that was
we
cool.
get the Tony Stark and his dad reunion.
Yeah, that's great. Because Tony, that's he always talks about how he didn't have a good relationship with him. So it was nice to see that he got to reconcile that.
It was
without Tony's
really
dad
good.
knowing that. And without Tony's dad knowing it was him, so he says things that we know that makes us laugh, but to his dad is okay. Like when he hugs him at the end, he's like, "Thank you so much," and he's like, "All right."
Yeah. It's like, who is that guy?
Yeah. And
and Jarvis was there.
And he apparently he plays the Jarvis character from the Peggy Cardi TV show.
That's what I heard. I've never watched it. So,
neither have I.
But Peggy's there. Peggy's in the 70s and Captain America. They did it twice in this movie, too, where Hawkeye, when he tested the pin particles, he almost got to see his daughter, and then he got... And then with Captain America, he gets to see Peggy, and then...
They're just separated by a sheet of glass, like a foot away. Yeah. The love of your life, dangling in front of you.
So close, yet so far away.
Yeah.
So it was. I mean, even though I felt like this took forever to get the Infinity Stones, I understand why. It's just one of those things where there's so much that they needed to put in here that me personally, I just thought it really dragged. But then we get to the third act, which is nuts.
Yeah. And it's out of nowhere nuts. I was like, oh, it took me by surprise, but not. Well,
because War Machine and Nebula have to go to the planet wherever.
Oh, this is fun too. So this is Vormir. And it's the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy. So they see Star-Lord dancing to himself, and you don't hear the music, and so you just hear him singing the song. It was great.
It's so great.
Get your love. And he's not singing well.
And War Machine's so he's an idiot. And then we get Nebula knocking him out, steals his tool, gets in there, reaches her hand into the laser fire. I don't know what that is. Brings it out. I do love her line where she turns to War Machine and goes, "I wasn't always like this." And then we kind of go down. I mean, I don't know when this happens quite in the movie, but we learn that, and this is another really weird part that you just need to accept in this movie, is where Nebula's current form in that timeline, her system connects with her future form. Yeah. And so Thanos can now see what's happening.
Or whatever. Yeah, she has her own network, and
I don't know.
They interfere like two CB radios or two walkie-talkies on the same channel.
Yeah.
And so one can see the other.
Yeah.
And so it spoils to Thanos, like you were saying.
And he ends up sending current Nebula, the bad guy Nebula, to our current time in 2019 to bring the entire Thanos ship to Earth to attack the Avengers.
Yeah, so they abduct future Nebula, replace her with past Nebula to come back into the future. So she's spinning. Yes. So bad Nebula is in disguise as good Nebula. And so she's now in the future, and they've all have the stones. And and this is where things get interesting, like you were saying, the third act.
Yeah. I mean, to skip forward a little bit, Thanos, just because he knows that, okay, I eliminated half the universe, but the other half just can't accept what they got. So I'm just going to have to kill everything and create my own universe.
Yeah.
Isn't that basically what Star-Lord's father wanted to do in Guardians of the Galaxy 2?
Yeah.
Yeah. So...
And almost like Ultron. Ultron was pretty much going to do it.
All these super villains want to just make their own worlds. They can do that. It's just, you could find a shitty planet in the middle of nowhere and just, I mean, it's not your own universe, but you'd have your own planet.
Which is funny because Thanos goes to the garden. That's where he's at the beginning, and he's the only one on the planet. Like, why didn't you just go there to begin with? Why go through all the hassle? Yeah,
because it'll never. Who cares if most of the universe is killing themselves by destroying their planets? You got your own planet. What more do you want, you selfish asshole?
I guess though that's more in line with comic book version of Thanos. It's like he's more of like kill them all.
I am inedible. What does he say?
Yeah, I am inevitable.
Yeah. He's fun. I kind of like it is just like he thinks he's so much better than everyone because he's
so laid back about it.
Yeah.
So
billions.
Right.
Like,
so
this is what needed to happen. What's wrong? Why is everybody looking at me like that?
He always is just sitting down with like his and he's got his like not quite prayer hands, but he's got his fingertips together. And just sitting there.
When he sends Nebula in to the destroyed Avengers base, and somehow Hawkeye and Ant-Man are still alive because Hulk, I don't know, stopped debris, and
he's holding up, which I guess there's a comic book cover.
Yeah, apparently.
And that's like a reference to that. Because so we didn't say, so obviously they make a gauntlet, like an Iron Man gauntlet with the stones. They all kind of vote, and Hulk says, like, it should be me. So he snaps to bring everybody back. And it's everybody back to the present. Doesn't change the last 5 years, but just brings everybody back. And they're kind of looking around, just realizing, everybody's back. And then while that's happening, Bad Nebula brought past Thanos to the future.
Yeah.
And he just, shot the whole Avengers Tower to like rubble.
I know. He sits outside and just waits.
Yeah, just sits outside, and then he tells what's her face, go get me the stones. He tells Bad Nebula, hey, go get me the stones, and he just sits there. He even has this like double-sided sword stuck in the ground in his helmet, just sitting on top of it. He's just so relaxed.
A relaxed maniac. It's a little. It's intimidating with how just quiet and calm he can be. But current Nebula, 2019 Nebula kills 2014 Nebula.
Right.
Or 2015. I don't know.
With the help of past Gamora.
Yeah. Good lord.
Because future Gamora is still stuck in the Soul Stone or whatever that place is called. AKA dead.
Well, when she kills old Nebula, I was like, whoa! I didn't think they'd do that.
Yeah. That'd be weird to kill your past self in the present.
Well, it's from a different timeline, so it's not going to affect you. So
right.
It was fun.
Yeah, obviously, because if you did that, then you would die. It's not like Looper.
It was fun murder.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's war, so it's not murder. But so somehow I think all the time agents, bandits, I don't know what the fuck they're called from Doctor Strange. I don't really care. But they bring, Black Panther and his whole army, and then Thanos' whole army, and
that's cool. So you first have the three. You've got Iron Man, Captain America, Thor. They start fighting Thanos, just the three of them. They're kind of getting beat up, and you have. This is right before that, right before you were starting to say that we have the big moment, because when Thor went back to the past, he was there and realized, Mjolnir's here. So he reaches out his hand and grabs, and he now has his old hammer again.
Yeah.
And then he travels to the future, so he has his hammer and he has Stormbreaker together. So he's fighting with both of them in this cool Rob Zombie beard. And Mjolnir gets knocked out of his hand, and he's down on the ground. Thanos is starting to crush Thor. You see Mjolnir lift in the air, and you're like, awesome, he's gonna do it. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Captain America has picked it up and thrown it at Thanos. And so we get that awesome moment, which was, I think, the biggest cheer out of the times I saw it. People were like, whoa!
I think it might have been in ours too. There was a lot of clapping when Black Panther came on, and then even more clapping when Peter Parker, Spider-Man came on.
Yeah.
And like, I don't really clap in movies, but I almost did when Captain America like just smashed Thanos with lightning, and I was like, no.
Yeah. Such a nice nerd payoff, and for people who don't know, that actually happens in the comics. Captain America's worthy and can pick up Mjolnir. And it's got this point where Thanos has beat him to a pulp, but he stands up again. He's only got half a shield left. Then all of a sudden you hear Sam, aka the Falcon, go, on your left. And he looks over, and then, Black Panther comes out of the little tunnel, and he does, Ibombe! And then you got the giant army of every good guy and everybody who's gone comes by. And then you could finally get to hear Captain America say, Avengers, assemble.
Yeah. That was a little bit of a cheer, too. That was... Yeah.
Even now talking about it, I was like, yes!
It's honestly hard to know because so much was going on, and it was hard to really absorb all of it. I don't even think you can. And you can't really, we've probably missed a lot of stuff talking about this movie, because there's just so much.
Yeah. There's so much payoff. Even so, I saw it twice, and there are things I picked up the second time around that I did not pick up the first time around. So yeah, it's definitely it's just really, it's epic. I don't think I've ever seen a movie this epic before.
Yeah, I don't know either. That's a hard one. I don't know. We're going to see if Avatar can be more epic, because apparently they spend all the monies.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous how much time and money they've spent on
I heard a whole country went under because of that.
It swallowed it. Just swallowed the country.
It became, it's us now where the Navi live now.
Yeah, they're real. James Cameron's like, not only have I made a movie about it, I've created it!
Yeah.
Cameron,
it's to bring it full circle. It's like New Asgard, the equivalent, where we had to move a whole race here to Earth.
But yeah, the fight's nuts, and I really thought Thanos, after he breaks Captain America's shield, I'm like, wow, they're gonna do it. Because my prediction coming into this, I had 3.
Okay.
1, Tony Stark would die. That one's kind of obvious because one thing, they showed the Spider-Man trailer before the movie, and he's not in it. Tony Stark's not in it. They could be doing that on purpose. And then I thought with it, because in the trailer he kept saying, whatever it takes, and I'm like, well, you're gonna die.
yeah. Die or super retire and never seen again. But
well, see, I thought Captain America was going to retire, and I kind of got that one right. A little bit. I don't know. We'll discuss it. Kind of.
See, I
thought it would be different.
I thought Captain was going to die.
See, I thought Captain America, because he never felt part of this timeline, would walk away. And 3, I honestly thought they were going to erase everything and start this all over, which I never like, because it's always so the last movie didn't happen.
The slate clean.
Yeah. Okay. But to their credit, they didn't. They're like, nah, this shit happened.
They went through this, and they're going to keep going through it. They're going to remember.
So that was cool. There's so much courage in this movie, and the stakes feel real. When Captain Marvel comes back, so Captain America doesn't die at that point, but it's a badass fight. And even Fat Thor's doing everything he can, almost dies by a Stormbreaker.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said,
and it has their nice funny moments where Captain and Thor are by each other, and they each catch the wrong hammer. So then they have to, no, you take the big one, I'll take the small one, or you take the small one, It's so there's all those funny moments. We get the reunion with with Spider-Man and Tony Stark, which is nice. It's like a son he didn't have, sort of. So have that tender moment. Almost every character, yeah, like there's a moment for pretty much every character.
Yeah.
There's even a moment where it's just like all the badass women have like a scene where they all like run charging, which is really convenient that on a giant battlefield, every star female is right there.
I gagged in my mouth a little bit with like how ridiculous that was. I get it. Apparently, is that a reference to a comic book? Like there's a all-female team?
I don't know. It could be. Part of me just feels like they're trying to appease an audience.
Yes, yeah. It's corporate Disney being like, we are for the women's.
Yeah, and because it's not like from a genuine place, it's like, you know.
Yeah, it's a little hollow.
Yeah.
And it didn't. See, I actually thought that would get a big cheer from the women in the audience. But I think because Anna, I went with Scott and Anna, and even Anna was like, that was pretty cheesy. It's just like,
wow.
I'm like, yeah, I mean, it was hand-fisted. It was just like smash.
I honestly didn't even notice it until afterwards. Someone had said, that all-female moment, and I was like, what?
Well,
I don't remember
that's
that.
Because you're a horrible male, and you're what's wrong with the world.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
I just didn't. It didn't.
You
like
personally
it didn't
are
over
the not all men. You.
Me. I am. I just didn't notice it. Like it didn't come across as over the top to me.
Oh, really? Are you kidding
well,
me? Sure. Scott next to me goes, "Oh God." Or at least I think he said that. He did in his mind.
He's surprised. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I feel like if I went to go see a movie with him, he would ruin it for me because of things like that.
Oh no, I'll tell you who So I didn't really like this movie when I stepped out of it. I was like, what the fuck was that? I actually like the movie the more I think about it. And I'll tell you why. I checked my watch a lot during this film, especially during the middle parts. The guy to the left of me with, I assume, his wife and his child this is 10 years of build in these Marvel films to get to this. They talked through the entire movie. It was so annoying. Like I kept like doing little I don't want to make this a big deal in this big film. I want the film to be the big deal. They kept and his wife was so bad with asking questions. She's like, every time someone would come back into the movie that had died 5 years ago, she's like, I thought so when Scarlet Witch was doing her stuff and she was like, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you, Thanos. You took Vision from me. Yeah. She's like, I thought she was dead. And he's like, oh no, see what happens. I'm like, how do you not know they just brought everyone back? I wanted to shake the shit out of her. I'm like, are you kidding me? And then I wanted to slap him and I go, stop answering her questions.
Yeah.
Stop talking.
Especially the questions that will get answered if you just keep watching. That's the worst. Why are they doing that? I don't know. Keep watching and you'll find out.
They got
Especially if they're asking you and it's the first time you've seen the movie too, you're like, I don't know. That's why I'm watching the movie, to find out.
But you probably shouldn't yell at a woman to shut up in the middle of the movie unless it's Avengers Endgame. Then you get a pass.
Yeah, absolutely.
They got up 3 times to fill their soda. Once they sent their son to refill the popcorn, and he came back with an empty bucket of popcorn. And then the father had to get up and make us move out of the way again to fill up the popcorn. I think you people can tell while in the middle of this movie, I wanted to leave. I was like, but I'm not going to go sit through another 3 hours of this movie. I'm not that big of a super fan. But you know what? If you go to the theater, shut up.
Yeah. Here's our PSA. Analog Jones PSA. Don't talk during the movie.
And don't answer your phone. Don't get your phone out. That's a big shiny piece of shit in my way.
Yeah. You're pretty much just shining a flashlight in my face during a movie.
was basically the Hulk from the first Avengers film. I just went outside and started punching a car.
Stairs! Okay, stairs!
So many stairs! I feel so much better after getting that off my chest.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good. Enough to not experience any of that. There were people coming and going, but I went with like 10 people, so we took up the majority of a row. So we didn't have people coming across us. They were in other rows, but so we lucked out there.
That's good.
Yeah, so that was nice.
I'm just gonna go to Indiana to watch my movies from now on.
There you go.
See, I thought going on a Tuesday night, because I usually go to movies on Sunday mornings, Tuesday nights, odd, weird times, so I can watch it peacefully with a smaller crowd that are much more respectful. And if the crowd isn't as respectful, I feel so much more comfortable calling them out. Anyway, back to the Avengers Endgame. Enough of how to act in a theater. How about you just be a respectful human being? Done.
Oh, yeah.
When Thanos gets the gauntlet on, and he's about to snap to kill the entire universe.
Right before this, there's a moment where Tony and Doctor Strange kind of are near each other, and he goes, "Hey, you saw all those times. Is this the one?" And Doctor Strange goes, "If I tell you, it won't happen." So they go back to fighting, and the whole time they're trying to get like a football.
Yeah.
They're trying to get the gauntlet from one side of the battle to the heart of the bad guys area where the van is, so they can. Their plan is to just automatically take it back in time and start putting the stones back in place where they go before Thanos can get. Is the plan. So.
Well, I mean, Captain Marvel, which annoyed me when how powerful she is. She like flies through Thanos' ship, so she can turn herself into a missile with no ill effects.
She's just like pure energy.
Yeah.
Which I think is her character. Like she's supposed to be, I think, the most powerful in the universe.
Superman's that powerful, but that's, in my opinion, what makes him kind of lame. You're too powerful.
Yeah, and they kind of do that too. So she flies through his ship, which was just like raining fire down on everybody, and just blows it up, which is I think I was like, that's pretty badass. And
no, it is badass, but at the same time, I'm like, ugh. Like, what can't she do?
Maybe that's one of the reasons why she wasn't in it as much, because then they're like, she could have just like finished the whole thing.
Yeah, why doesn't she just fly? Why doesn't she just fly straight down into Thanos, grab him, and just take him to the center of the earth?
Yeah. So she's got the moment where she's like, he has the gauntlet, she's holding on, so he can't close his fist, and he's like trying to headbutt her, and it's like having no effect on her whatsoever.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
And so he does, which I was like was pretty clever, is he takes like the Power Stone off, puts it in his fist, has left hand power fist, which is its technical comic book term, and then just clocks her right in the face, and she's like. She just goes off the frame, and you don't see her. Yeah, it
was smart. I think that's what makes Thanos such a formidable, such a powerful opponent. Is not only is he like Thor-like strong, and he has the fighting ability of, say, I don't know, the Black Widow. He's smart. He's clever.
Yeah,
and that was part of it. But even more clever is Tony Stark. And getting... Okay, so I got a question about the gauntlet. Maybe we can talk about this.
Sure.
Now, Thanos in Infinity War got the gauntlet created by Peter Dinklage, the giant, I don't know, blacksmith dwarf. I don't know what... I'm sure that character is real in the comics.
I think they were called dwarfs.
Yeah, so it's
kind of funny, even though they're giants.
He's basically the only one in the universe who can create a gauntlet that can contain all this power at once.
Mm-hmm.
But in this movie, Tony Stark makes not one, but two gauntlets of his own.
Well, sort of. Because when Thanos uses it, when he snaps his finger, it damages the glove. And when he destroys the rings, that's when it destroyed part of his body. So I think that glove was meant to absorb more of the power, because the glove that Tony first
Well, I don't think it doesn't matter what gauntlet you use. Once you use that amount of power, it basically, well, if you're human, it kills you.
Right.
And if you're super strong like Hulk, it made out of gamma rays, it damages your arm. And I guess we don't even know if his arm will ever fully repair, because Thanos, when he was on his, at his garden, his own planet, his arm didn't recover.
And yeah, but I think to me it sounded like he said that it almost killed him when he destroyed them. So I think the initial snap didn't really do much to him. And I think that, for me, I think that's because the glove was meant to take more of that.
Oh.
And that's why when Hulk puts on the Iron Man glove, it immediately starts tearing up his arm, and he just has it, and he's just wearing it. He hasn't snapped it yet. And so I think that's why it's like, it's not as good as whatever the dwarf guy made.
I don't know.
That's my opinion.
I still think, I'm like, meh. Maybe if they would have traveled in the past and like stole the gauntlet from another timeline and then brought it back, I'd have been like, that's better. And then
brought a seamstress dwarf to make it the size.
Yeah. Anyway, it's nitpicking the movie. They end up, Iron Man snaps his fingers before saying, I am Iron Man. Yeah,
because it's great, because you got that moment where you were starting to say, and that Thanos was like, I am inevitable, and he snaps, and there's nothing, and he turns the glove around and realizes the stones are missing, and that's when we cut to Iron Man, who has taken them off and put them on his suit, and then he goes, and I am Iron Man.
Yeah, I think it would have been clever if it would have shown like Star-Lord and been like, "That's my move."
Yeah,
that's something Star-Lord would do.
Yeah, finally.
Star-Lord, finally. But that would have stolen some thunder away from Iron Man, and probably shouldn't do that. So he has his moment where he is dying, and Spider-Man comes over to him, and then Gwyneth Paltrow is Pepper Potts, and she's got her Iron Man suit on, or Iron Lady suit. I don't know, what do we call that?
She's in the comic. She was called Rescue, I want to say. When she had her own suit, she was called Rescue, I want to say. I'm not.
Okay. I don't know.
Not 100% confident in that.
Yeah, I wonder if she's going to come back in the Marvel Universe as someone.
Yeah, is she going to run the company now?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, he passes, and I tell you what, the funeral, that was incredible. I mean, there's a lot of cameos in this film that I was shocked by. Robert Redford, for one, because I thought he was done acting.
Yeah.
They pan and they show that. Now, maybe some of those were added, because I would like to watch that in slow-mo. It felt a little unnatural on that pan. On some. Yeah. Most looked like they were there, but some I was like, maybe they just put them in post because they couldn't make it. It's hard to get that many famous actors together. It
is only one shot, though.
Yeah.
So if they get them for, like, if they plan it right and they're like, hey, stand here, look sad, and we'll get this done in as little as it takes as possible.
Yeah, and Nick Fury's there too, like overlooking everyone.
Nick Fury, even what's his face? The guy, the one who comes up with the Accords, the Sokovia Accords, that general.
Yeah, I saw him. Yeah,
he was there.
Now, someone said the kid from Iron Man 3. Yes. Is he there? I didn't notice that.
He's right in front. He's behind. So. When I first saw it, there's that time when Ant-Man comes out of the quantum realm, and he's looking around trying to figure out what happens. He sees a little kid on the bike. And the little kid on the bike, he's like, hey, what the hell happened? And the little kid just kind of looks like he wipes his eyes and then rides away. And then later in the funeral, to me, it looked like the same kid. Whether it was or not, I don't know. But I was like, that kid has to be someone. So we walk out of the theater, I'm like, who was that kid? And one of them was like, it's the kid from Iron Man 3. So he was in the funeral towards the back, behind the Guardians of the Galaxy. He's just there by himself, and he's like super tall and lanky now. 5 years, 7 years.
Oh, probably longer than that. 5 years in the movie timeline, and then Iron Man 2 or 3 came out. I don't even know. But
First
so
one was
I would guess at least
2008.
yeah. I would guess it's at least been 8 years in their timeline.
Yeah. He was, and it's the same kid, I think. It's the same actor. He's just...
Well, what is he doing? I mean,
yeah.
How arrogant would you be, like, to turn down the end scene of a funeral for Iron Man?
Oh,
You're like, nah, I don't need this.
No, that's not my thing anymore.
Yeah. Plus, he's not even a liked character. I know so many people. I like Iron Man 3. I like it when you show a hero when you take away their powers. And I thought what they did with Mandarin was funny because I don't care about Mandarin. I don't care about him.
Bloody hell.
So that's fine. I know a lot of people are really pissed about Fat Thor, and again, I don't care about. I care about Chris Hemsworth's Thor, but Thor in general, I don't care about. So I thought this was awesome.
Yeah, I thought that was great because it made more. Like my dad was talking about how he was hoping that once he caught, he's like, all right, let's do this, and he grabs both hammers, that he'd just instantly be like back in shape again. But I think that would have been a little too
committed.
Yeah, I think that would have been a little too like, really, like that kind of would have taken me out of it a little bit. But I think it would. I do agree with him. I think it would be cool to see him kind of kick a little bit more ass. I felt like he was not quite as ass kickery in this one.
I think this movie it's mostly about Captain America and Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much the two that have carried this franchise.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't need to alone. At the beginning, I think they carried the franchise. And then Disney and Marvel got so good at creating these films, they didn't have to, but they're still going to get the spotlight at the end because they started it.
They have, like, everybody cares about them the most, I feel. The collective audience. Well,
I mean, it's Tony Stark's character is so good.
Mm-hmm. And it's a good bookend to the, cinematic universe. He begins and he ends it.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think it's great. And now they'll move on to the second it's not phase. What is it? Saga 2?
Phase 4, I think they're calling it.
I might take a little bit of a break, though, because I've been critical a lot of the Marvel movies the last 3 or 4 years because I'm like, everything's so serious. There's no real stakes. But now they created stakes. This was very emotional, and they did things that I'm finally glad they did. Do I like this movie more than, say, Guardians of the Galaxy? No. I think Guardians of the Galaxy is basically a perfect superhero movie. It's taking a ragtag team and turning them into heroes, and I think the pacing's a lot better. But epic-wise, this thing blows everything out of the water.
This is a movie I feel like it's rewatchable for sure, but it's not something like ooh, I can't wait to sit through the first really sad first half of this movie.
Yeah,
it's more like I'm gonna fast forward to the end of this movie and watch the epic fight scene.
It's a movie that just takes a lot out of you.
Yeah,
it's just emotional craziness, and you have to be a super fan, which there are a lot. Obviously, this movie, I think this movie will make enough money to buy Papua New Guinea, like an entire country.
Yeah. And so there's been, a lot of people were like, do you really need to see all of them? And for me, I for the majority part, I would say yes, because there's so many payoffs that if you do, you get so much more out of it. Even going back, because my nephew hadn't seen them, so we had begun rewatching them. He's actually downstairs right now watching the first Avengers. There are things that I didn't notice the first time that when I saw it the second time, I still got more out of it. And there's lines that they say back and forth. When Hawkeye and Black Widow are in the spaceship going to Morag to get the Soul Stone, they have this moment where they're like, hey, this is serious, but they have this, like, we're in a spaceship, like, going through hyperspace right now. And this is awesome. And they say this isn't like Budapest, which is a reference to what they said to each other while they were fighting on Avengers. And coming up to the end of the story here, we've got a parting of Captain America and Winter Soldier. And they have their lines as similar to the way it was in the first of Captain America movie, where when Bucky's going off to war, he's like, I'll see you later, or he's like, don't do anything stupid till I get there, and he's like, how could you? You're taking all the stupid with you. And they say those lines to each other as they're separating now. So there's lots of mirroring of things like that you may not pick up on. So there is a bunch of rewatchability for things like that.
Yeah, like I said, this will be like The Last Jedi for me. If I do rewatch it, it's going to be like, I'll skip this, I'll skip that, and then I'll just get to the parts where I'm like, that's so fun. And there are a lot of really fun just character building. It's not like I'm skipping all the it's just mostly, like I've said, the time heist. But some things in the time heist I will watch.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. Again, it's a nitpick. It's just because I like really good pacing. I felt like this lacked it a little bit, but I'm probably in the minority on that.
There's great one-liners through the time heist where
they're talking about whole thing.
Oh yeah. Or when
so
Thor's trying to explain the ether and he's like drunk, how he's like going through the emotional roller coaster. He's like, this is Jade. We used to date. And then he gets sad because he realizes they're not dating anymore. And there's a whole thing. And they're like, why don't you step away? And he's like, no. And he keeps going. And he's like, so do you know what's coursing through my veins? And then Rhodey's like, cheese whiz. Like, there's a bunch of great things in there. And like, how Steve's saying he's, fast forward through stuff. It's not like he's fast forward through bad parts of the movie. It's just they're not as fun to watch. It's like it's good, like make you feel emotions and stuff, parts of the movies, but like why would you want to go through that again? I want to make myself feel bad and watch this part of the movie.
That ends it. That ends what, the entire 10-year first one. Now we'll move on to all the newbies. We'll see what they do. But hell of a ride. Hell of a ride, I can tell you that.
Do we want to go over the ending of the movie?
Oh, that's right. Captain America goes back in time, returns all the time stones, but then overshoots his Earth jump. I don't know what they call it.
His time jump.
He brings the hammer with a Matilda. That's what I'm gonna call Thor's hammer.
Meow meow.
But yeah, Captain America travels with the hammer and then comes back, overshoots, and then we see Captain America's old man Cap, who decided to stay in the 1970s with his love and age.
He stayed further than that. I think he was like in the 40s or 50s.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. Because he had to age this much, and then he comes back. Did you notice he didn't have the hammer?
Yeah.
Where's the hammer?
So that opens up possibilities. He brought back the shield because the shield was destroyed, so he brought back past shield, and he gives it to Sam, the Falcon, who in the comics becomes Captain America, but after the Winter Soldier does. So that was interesting.
You're drifting off in your camera.
I know.
You started in the middle, now you're all the way over. But it's interesting to see him. It's better than giving it to Bucky. Bucky's probably not exactly Captain America, material in this cinema. I don't think he's Captain America material, period.
Right.
He used to be an assassin.
Yeah.
He killed Tony Stark's dad.
He's we don't know if he's completely reliable yet.
No. And he's already got a metal arm. He's fine.
Yeah, he doesn't need more.
Yeah. I mean, really, what does Sam have other than the wings? He doesn't actually have a power.
He's got a gun and a little drone.
Yeah, he could die really easily. He better be really good with that shield. Shoot him in the head.
Yeah, what if he shot me in the face?
The first Captain America movie is over in 10 minutes. Ooh.
That reminds me of there's a cartoon that my dad watched when he was younger, and it was called Bambi versus Godzilla. And you just see Bambi, and all of a sudden a giant foot goes, poof, and then the credits start rolling. It's like 10 seconds long, maybe. It'd be just like that.
Accurate. All right, so I highly recommend.
It's a nice ending to Captain. He's no longer feels like he's out of time. There's a nice moment where Sam's like, you see Captain put his hand on top of Sam's hand, and you see the wedding ring there, and so Sam's like, "You gonna tell me about her?" And he's like, "No, I don't believe I will." So it's a nice moment. That's pretty much it.
Well, Thor ends up with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and I can't wait for that.
Right. What's funny is I just learned this. So he says, "As Guardians of the Galaxies" when he gets on the ship, which is an actual comic. There was an actual comic in 2018 that came out called As Guardians of the Galaxy, which was a bunch of Asgardians, a ragtag team of Asgardians kind of being like the Guardians of the Galaxy. And so I think that was I don't know if one influenced the other or not. He also gave Valkyrie, she made her queen of Asgard, of New Asgard, and relinquished his throne.
Hawkeye got his family back.
Yeah, Hawkeye went back to his family. I don't think it showed anybody else after that, really.
Again, there was so much going on that it's hard to really absorb.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, whatever. We got the big ones out of the way. It's such an epic film. You have to see it. Well, I hope you've seen it after listening to this, or we just destroy this.
The Russo brothers on the news said that on Monday they gave everybody permission to talk about it online on this coming Monday. On that's the 4th today, so that would be the 6th.
Okay. Well, I'll probably maybe release it then. I don't know. I mean, no, the Russo brothers aren't worried about me.
No.
You.
But they were on like Good Morning America or something like that, and they're like, when can we start talking about it? And he was like, I'd say Monday. It gives everybody like a solid 2 weeks, 2 weekends to go see it. So I don't know if take that for a grain of salt. I don't know if people are actually going to be like counting down to midnight.
No, I mean, plenty of people have the spoiler reviews out. I think he just meant maybe they meant general in public. Like, can we talk about it at work and all that?
Yeah. But
anyway,
to be honest, that hasn't really. I've seen tons of spoilers for both that and Game of Thrones, and I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you posting this?
Here's one thing I can tell you: Endgame was much better than the Battle of the White Walkers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was disappointing.
That really was. I was hoping for Battle of the Bastards 2, where it was just like blows your mind.
The only time I was really like, oh no, oh shit, was when John was out there and the Night King rose everybody from the back from the dead. Was awesome. And he was just surrounded by people. I was like, oh shit.
All right, thanks for listening. You can get us wherever you get your podcast or YouTube apparently now. And it's been a lot of fun. And remember to be kind.
Rewind.